Blog Talk Radio.
First up, I'm very excited in a moment to introduce Evan Bullet James. You can call him Bullet. His documentary, Life Gangster Redemption Song, is his story as told by himself. From an idyllic childhood in New York City to running with the Playboy gangsters in Los Angeles and smoking cocaine in a gas station bathroom, Evan recounts the events of his early life with honesty, passion, and humor. Performed at a small theater in Los Angeles and captured by documentary filmmaker Anthony Avildsen, a childhood friend of Evan's, the film offers an utterly unique look at life, love, loss, addiction, and recovery. So welcome to the show, Evan Bullet James. Good morning, Evan. How are you? Evan, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic, or should I say Bullet. First of all, congratulations on A, your recovery, B, bringing it to the stage, and C, bringing it to the big screen. So that's quite a remarkable journey.
Thank you very much for your kind words, and it's an honor to be on your show.
I don't want to give away the film. I hate knowing personally a lot about, all the key points of a film before I see it. But I'd love to know what you like people to know about your story before they have the opportunity to experience it on the big screen.
Sure. Well, that's an excellent question. I appreciate your sentiments about not kind of sharing the whole story in this interview. I will say that it is a very personal story. It's a story that is told with truth, with passion. It's a story that I believe in many ways is more universal than just the plight of addiction. I believe the story touches every aspect of society, of the dynamics of families, of the trials and tribulations that families have, the fracturing and splintering of one's being and childhood, and how that affects a human being. And I think it's also important that while it's a very serious life and death subject matter, that it was important that there's a tremendous amount of absurdity in the road that I traveled and decisions that I made throughout my life that at the time didn't seem comical, but in retrospect are quite comical, which, because it's such a heavy subject matter, is I think very helpful to the audience to have a moment to breathe from time to time with kind of outrageous laughter based upon some of the antics I had in my addiction. Now, do you believe that addiction is hereditary? I believe that certainly there's a genetic predisposition to those who have addictive personalities, but certainly I think it's kind of a little bit more multifaceted than that. So I believe there's certainly a link from a genetic standpoint, but I don't think that's a definitive precursor to somebody being an addict. And in terms of your own sort of recovery, do you share that journey in the film? I absolutely do. I share it with every ounce of energy and blood, sweat, and tears that exist within my being. Well, I won't name which program because this is the level of press, but I have 13 years sober myself, and God bless you. So I have thank you. So I have a lot of experience with people who are in recovery, and my personal opinion is that the ism that brings people to 12-step programs can be connected to food, alcohol, sex, money, so many different things. And
in my own personal experience, I found that I had this collision of ego with a complete lack of authentic self-esteem, which only began to appear as I got into recovery. Would you say that a lack of self-esteem or some sort of self-contempt was part of your journey?
Without a shadow of a doubt, I felt a great deal of shame, in particular, for letting my dad in particular down, and what happened in my childhood, and always feeling kind of different and separate and not a part of, and blowing a lot of opportunities. I was a heralded athlete and got caught up, running with a street gang, and kind of chose a different path. But I do, if I may say one other, I think you're very much on point, and I respect your experience in your recovery. I was having a discussion with some brothers at a meeting hall that my organization helps manage up in Los Angeles yesterday, and the conversation spun out into, they said, so what do you feel that the core of your addiction and diseases? And, I'm not talking from a religious standpoint. I'm just said, for me and my experience, that the core of my disease was a spiritual malady, that I always knew that there was a power much greater than me that existed. It doesn't matter what it's called. We'll call it a higher power for the sake of not making this religious. And I always knew the difference between right or wrong, but I chose to take the path of least resistance, and I chose to take the path to anesthetize my pain, which many times affected a lot of people's lives. And I had a spiritual malady, and now in my recovery, I've found a higher power that's very loving, tolerant, accepting, but also has taught me not to take contrary action and to do what I always knew was right, which I just chose not to do before. So that's kind of where I'm at in my recovery right now, and it's evolving. I'm coming up on 27 years clean and sober, and it continues to evolve. And I certainly don't know everything. I think maybe I know a little, but it's a journey.
One of the things that I think that is pretty astounding about the rooms, to put it in a general way, is that there are people who come from every walk of life who all have a different view or description of their own higher power. And I think that those rooms are one of the only places in the world where people can do powerful things together in a spiritual context without war.
Amen. I don't think you could have said it any better than that. In part of the conversation we were having last night, it's a very simple phrase, yet it carries a tremendous amount of weight to me personally, and that is that I can't and we can. Without the support and the family that I find in the rooms, I like the way you put that. I would feel, even with this much clean time, I would feel lost being able to connect with those who are at different phases of their recovery, and maybe to be a guide to some, and also have the ability to share what's going on with me on days. And sometimes I don't even need to share it. People just pick up on it. Hey, what's going on today with you, Bullet? You seem a little this or that. They just intuitively know. Without that, I honestly, I would feel very lost.